What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I'm JC Owens, and this is Rock My World, episode 27, Age of Deception. Now, I use that word deception quite purposefully here because this stuff that you're seeing here lately with the alien disclosures from our government is just that, a deception. And before we're done here today, I hope to have at least inspired you to look into this. Look, as far back as we can go, the elites have been writing, lying, and saying at their little meetings like Davos and things like that, NATO, that, they wanted a one world government, right? And like we've talked about this many times, many times, and this UFO like alien thing is part of it. Now, first off, you have to understand that since 1951, our military has been experimenting with drone technology. Nikola Tesla had, used radio control to control a little boat in a pond decades before that. He dies, the military gets hold of his stuff, they go to work, right? All of a sudden, you start seeing these unidentified flying objects everywhere, right? All right. Now, in World War II, most people are aware of Operation Paperclip now. I intend to do an episode on it one day, but for now, we'll just do a quick overview. Operation Paperclip was a secret operation that the U.S. and its allies, the Anglo-American establishment, if you will, undertook to bring Nazi scientists over here to America, to France, to Britain, and integrate them into our government, our society, etc. They gave them new names, houses, cars, the works, gave them new backgrounds. This is why you can see, like, guys at NASA with mincer scars. They like to practice fencing with live blades and, fencing like I do. Like, not a fence, but fencing with swords, right? You do it really at mincer, or you do it really up close and personal, face to face. You wear a little mask to protect your eyes, but the rest of your face and head are open, right? This was a really big thing back in World War II days. They did it at elite German colleges, and it would show how brave of a man you were, right? Like, they had scars like me, like this nasty one I got right here. Like, it's a very common thing for these people. See it all over NASA scientists, all right? Well, Werner von Braun, the head of NASA, was one of those Operation Paperclip scientists. And on his deathbed, he told his wife, and I quote, there would be a manufactured alien threat that would be a final card in a series of manipulated threats, starting with terrorists and rogue nations as the excuse to justify weaponizing space and the creation of a one-world government. At the NATO speech that Ronald Reagan gave, he also name-checked the alien threat as one of the best options for getting world peace and a one-world government as the route to getting that world peace, right? It's like I've talked about before, though. If you go too far in trying to get peace, then you become a tyrant, right? It's very similar to what's called the tolerance paradox, right? You become so uber tolerant that you demand everyone be as tolerant as you, and if they won't be as tolerant as you then hurt them, right? See, that's called the tolerance paradox, and it's once you go too far, you then become the very thing that you're supposed to hate, right? It's the same kind of thing here. That's why I bang on about these things all the time. It's because all this stuff I talk about is interrelated with, these topics are interrelated with one another, right? Understanding one is understanding the rest. Like, I want you all to be able to see things the way that I and some of these elites that are planning all this can see things. I want you to get that big picture, and you can see it over and over when you read the writings of the elite. This is a huge linchpin in their plans, right? An outside threat in space would allow them to put nukes and lasers and things like that in space that they could then deploy anywhere in the world whenever they wanted to. You know, a nation stands up and decides it doesn't want to be part of their little one world system anymore. Well, like, guess what? They can hold that nation hostage. You know, they're wanting to put mirrors up there, like I said not too long ago, so they can cut your sunlight off. It's not as much about being able to beam sunlight anywhere in the world as it is about being able to cut it off if you don't behave. Right? This is all about, like, making everyone behave whether they like it or not. You know, I've talked about it before. The only way to end war, to end hunger and homelessness and all these kind of things is to take away people's free will. As long as people can choose on their own, like, they will make bad choices. They'll make bad choices that, you know, put them in the street. You know, I made bad choices that have put me in the street before. I pulled myself back up out of it. But that is you know, that was me. That was my choices, and I chose to pick myself back up out of my slump of, you know, drug abuse and all that, and, like, become productive again. I chose that. But, you know, some people won't. Some people will not choose that. And the only way that you can get them to choose that is if you force them. And that is where we're headed, folks. That's where we're headed. The world's governments, they want their peace so bad that they're willing to eliminate 90% of us to get it. They're willing to stick chips in the back of your hands, and yes, they are willing to use plastic surgery, genetic modification, and anything else they can use to make you think that we are under attack by aliens. You remember the whole, you know, that whole broadcast we were told about as kids. You know, I think it was the whole War of the Worlds broadcast. You know, they did a live fire test and broadcast a fake alien invasion over the radio to see if people would believe it, and everyone did. Everyone fell for it. Yeah, that was the first run, folks. That was the test run. That was the test run. And if you look at, like, the reading list that I promote and that Jay Dyer promotes, you know, if anybody wants it again, just let me know, and I will make sure you get the reading list. And, you know, you can go down the reading list and find out all these things that I did. Right? Like, it's all there. It's all there. The elites cannot help themselves but record all this stuff and, you know, flaunt it in front of your face. They say themselves that it's the open conspiracy. That's what Aldous Huxley called it. Right? The open conspiracy. Why? Because it's right there in front of your face. Because it's the easiest place, best place to hide anything. To hide anything. Back when I was still doing drugs, where's the best place to do a drug deal? Right in under the cops' noses. That's the last place they would expect you to do it. Like, people are that, like, it's sad to say, but most people, including the police and, like, judges and everybody that you look up to in society, they're all just as fallible and silly as the average. Most people will fall for these little tricks so easy. So easy. And, you know, understanding these things, learning this stuff is one of the best ways to protect yourself. This is why I talk about, like, you know, debate and, you know, the logical fallacies and all these kind of things. I want you to have the weapons, the tools you need to defend yourselves. Because this is where modern warfare is right now. It's called 5th and 6th generation warfare. It's in here. It's in your head. That's where it begins. That's where it always begins. It begins in your head and with your perception of things. And if they can convince you that there's little green men coming to get you and make the whole world scared, then people will do almost anything. Especially if they can show some kind of crazy technology no one's ever seen before, and they have it. Invention Secrecy Act, 1951, 6,000 plus inventions, advancements, patents, etc. have been kept from the public. And this is the kind of stuff they're going to use to convince you that we actually have aliens. You know, people point to this recent disclosure. Well, if you actually read any of this stuff, it's what they call a nothing bird. There's nothing there. It's more of the same. More blurry video footage, more ambiguous. Oh, I saw this thing and it moved really fast. And it's like, well, before people would say, oh, well, man-made aircraft can't fly like that or change direction like that because it would turn them into jelly. The pilot, that is. And it's like, well, drones don't have a pilot on board. It can zip around any which where. Right? Like, yeah. Use the noggin, folks. Use your noodle. Right? Like, PB&J Otter, I think it was. I remember, like, the youngins used to watch it back in the day. But anyway, I'll leave it there. I really hope that you folks look into this. Please don't fall for these kind of things. Like, at best, an alien is going to be a demon. Like, if anything else. A demon or, like, some, government agent, like, or, I mean, think about it. What would happen if you took, like, you were to take, I don't know, an orphan baby or something, or a bunch of orphan babies, maybe do some genetic editing on them, or, like, plastic surgery, kind of like Jeffrey Epstein was doing over there at Zorro Ranch on children, right? And then you make them look like aliens and tell them their whole life that they're aliens. They'll even believe it. What do you think? Either way, laters. I'll talk at you again next weekend. Like, have a great one. Much love and peace out.